Okay, I feel a slightly bit guilty because I started this campaign and I said I was going to, well, I'm not sure if I said definitively that I'd record all of the games, but I didn't. In fact, I recorded 4, maybe 5 of them, and we're now down to the last couple of missions. And I stopped recording because I got a little bit disillusioned because I suddenly started to feel that the combatants were unbalanced. So the 18th Tank Corps felt quite weak compared to 9th Panzer Division. And if we have a quick check of the victory point decks, you can see that the German deck's quite a lot thicker. Now, that says two things. One is that the Germans have won more of the missions. So when you win a mission, you get the terrain and the mission card. But it also means that they've destroyed a lot more formations of the Soviets. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a huge difference in victory points, because the German formations are generally worth maybe double the victory points of equivalent kind of Soviet formation or a Soviet formation card, because they're generally better formations on the whole. The Soviets do have their strengths, and I perhaps hadn't been playing too well to them, so I sort of regained my confidence in the game and what I was doing, and I thought, okay, well, let's continue, because it is actually in the balance. Essentially what's happened is that the Soviets actually won the drive on Stalingrad operations, so that kind of like stalled some of that drive, but then the Germans won streets of Stalingrad, so that's kind of the opposite from what I would have expected. So they won the operation in the streets of Stalingrad, and then they also won Operation Uranus, the Soviet counterattack. And I think that was partly misapplication of mine, in that I haven't been utilising the reinforcements decks as much as I can, because the reinforcements come back each operation. So, and for example, the Germans only have 2 available because they are an elite unit, but the Soviets, because they're only a trained unit, they're given like 8 reinforcements, and I was only bringing in 1 or 2. The reinforcements of some of the cards are very powerful, especially they have one, I shouldn't really be looking, so I'm not supposed to know what's available, especially some quite very powerful artillery in there as well. So I think I should have been doing that more. And then another thing that I realised I should have done is what I was doing habitually was bringing on 2 headquarters. So I was bringing on the unit headquarters, that's the divisional headquarters, and the regimental headquarters of the regiment that I was fielding at the time. So the Germans often had 2 headquarters in play, which gave them a great strength in planning and bringing on extra troops. And then I just realised that what I should have done because of that is take out the one of those headquarters with an airstrike. Because I'm playing a campaign, I might lose the mission. I might want to use my airstrike on formations that are threatening the objectives, say. So instead of striking one of those, which is what I guess I was tending to do, I should have struck the headquarters, the divisional headquarters, and then that would have been out of the whole campaign. The Germans wouldn't have been able to fall back on that. But so anyway, we are where we are, and the Soviets did have one significant victory, was that they actually took out General Paulus very early on with a sniper, so he's the best attachment card the Germans could have. But then the Germans have taken out so many Soviet formations that in actual fact they can only field 1 full organisation. So an organisation is generally it's minimum 3, like a headquarters and then 2 other formations. In this case, all they have left is the 181st Tank Brigade. It's got an armour formation and an infantry formation motorised infantry formation. So that is all they have left in terms of a complete formation, and that is a problem because you need to field a complete organisation. You need to field an organisation in which to attach the divisional assets. If you don't have these, then the divisional assets cannot be stacked together, in which case there would be serious problems for the Soviets. Their forces would basically just be very thinly spread out. So they have that problem, and then the second problem they have is if at any time you cannot field the minimum number of cards in your unit deck, then you forfeit the campaign. And the minimum number of formations the Soviets can have in their deck is 20. It's the same for the Germans as well. But the Soviets can actually have more in their deck than the Germans. But it so happens that they're down to 20 formations total. The Germans have eaten up so many that is their situation. So if they lose a single formation, they've lost the campaign by forfeit. Anyway, the situation we're at is it's all in the balance, apart from those factors I just mentioned, because the Germans have 40 campaign victory points and the Soviets have 10, which sounds like a big difference, but we're playing for Winter Storm, we're playing for 35. So if the Soviets get that, they're still going to win. How likely is that? Having said what I said, we shall see. But we've seen some interesting play. For example, the last mission, so I'm on the second mission in Winter Storm. The last mission, the Germans actually won it, but they won it even though they held the objective. So the Soviets were trying to gain their objective. The Soviets were attempting, the mission was called Deflating a Bridgehead. So the Soviets started on the Don River steps, and their objective was Nizhny, where the Germans had their bridgehead, and it looked like the Soviets could, at one point, were about to win. They had sort of left one side free, and they'd come around the other side. So the Germans quickly moved over and took the Soviet base. What that meant was that they won with 19 victory points instead of, if they'd held their objective, they would have got 38. So they got a slender win there, but a win nevertheless. So we're still playing for 100 victory points, and I've selected the starting formation. So like I said, the Soviets are going with their tank brigade, their last full strength organisation. And I smiled when I rolled for there's always one or two cards discarded. They discarded their headquarters. I thought, okay, that's it. That's over for the Soviets. And then the Germans discarded their headquarters as well. So they're starting on a similar footing. So I'm just lining up how we're going to defend this. The Soviets, partly what they're hoping to do is to win by destroying German units rather than necessarily getting to the objectives, because their German units are worth quite a lot. If they can, for example, this Panzer battalion here is worth 33 victory points, so they kill that one, they're a third of the way to winning the mission. The Germans are fielding another one with the same number of victory points, so they kill those two, and they're 2/3 of the way to the mission. Now the Germans obviously don't know that. And what is this mission we're playing? So this mission is called Operation Thunderclap. Now it gives it as fictitious, which tells me another thing about how all the other missions and so forth are very historically well researched. So this is the only one in the decks that I've seen marked as fictitious, so I assume all the others were real. So this one is the it was the hope for operation, or the plan for operation, where the 6th Army would attempt to break out of the encirclement to meet Hoth's army coming up outside the encirclement, and it never happened. Paulus, for some reason, didn't do it. I guess he just felt his troops were too weak, although that would have been their last chance. Well, Paulus, as we know, is dead anyway, so that whoever's the commander, perhaps that's why it's happening. Whoever is now in charge of 6th Army is on the offensive. So in fact, so the Soviets are on the defensive. They've got artillery and 3 troop cards, and their troop cards are 2 quite strong panzer brigades, or tank brigades I should say, and then a motorised rifle battalion. I'm going to put the rifle battalion. And it's often best to go around on the flanks, because if you head through the centre, you can be hit from either flank. So I'm going to put the weaker unit in the centre and hope he doesn't go for that. The 2 stronger ones on either side. And then, so it's difficult that they're putting the artillery back, but it's unfortunate that a lot of the Soviet artillery, they don't have the range to fire adjacent the artillery they have left. And it's the case with this artillery. It's a mortar battalion, so it doesn't have a range of... there's a cannon regiment. Okay, now I'm going to say that they had that one instead. So that can fire adjacent. Okay. So that's Soviet setup. Artillery. It can barrage on here as they come in, and their troops lined up. Then the Germans, so they're without headquarters, which means they're not going to be able to do any planning, but they're still fairly strong in themselves, and they've got a strong artillery unit. They've essentially got two strong panzer battalions here, and an engineer battalion. They chose that because that gives them even more armour cover, armour defence as they go into the attack, and it also will give them a bonus on the cover, and then nice heavy artillery. So it's good artillery because it can penetrate a lot. There's a lot of it, but it's not... Oh, sorry. It's good artillery. There's a lot of it, I suppose, which means you get potentially 2, maybe 3 barrage attacks if you're in contact. But it's not the strongest. It's only strength 5. Often the Germans have 7 or 8. But I chose that because I chose the more attacks could be more useful, more chances. And so I think, knowing that the Soviets are generally slow, and that we knocked out some of their best troops before, including that the Germans knocked out their divisional headquarters early on. That was actually in a capture. Just a bit of flavour there. You've got Tractor Factory Works Militia Regiment that were captured. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the Chemical Battalion. Yeah, that was a catastrophic loss really for the Soviets. It's a very strong formation. It's got shock attack ability, which effectively gives them a kind of like a free attack. They don't even have to do a chance check for it. So it gives them a free attack as they go in for combat. So it's a very strong formation. It was proven quite effective, but Germans managed to knock it out. And so that they don't have many other at least strong tank. And the thing about tanks is you can, with tanks, move quite quickly. So for example, this tank battalion, you see you can march and advance, whereas infantry generally march or advance. So the Germans don't know that in fact the Soviets are fielding a strong tank brigade which can march and advance. So I'm thinking they might leave a flank undefended and just go in for a quick kill. It's risky, but you know the trouble is that if they cover everything, then they don't have so much lined up for the attack. So we can see what the terrain we're up against first. And this is the weakest defensible terrain, and our objective is Buzanovka, and we're kicking off from the Stalingrad Central Station. So it would cost the Soviets an order to take that. So even if they get there in one go, they'd need an extra order to take it. And if they didn't have it, we would have a chance to reinforce it. So I'm going to leave this flank undefended. I'm going to put the artillery here, and also we have to check the connections. So for example, if the artillery is here, then it can barrage here and here. So that's interesting. In fact, that location is not connected to the Soviet locations, and so I'm going to leave this one undefended, and we'll pile in here so we can hopefully go around this way. So all of the troops, no, okay, so I'm going to put one there. No, because I need to have coming in. Okay, I'll put one of the panzers in reserve there. I'll bring the other one up the front. Okay, so I've got 3 there, and I am holding that. That one we don't have to worry about, which is very handy. So we're going for 41 victory points, Buzinovka, and if they take our base, they will get 20 victory points. Or else if they hold that, they will get 41. So this is a high victory point objective. Okay, so I'll draw the starting hands. Soviets get 4, and they immediately get a rail supplies card, which they could play instantly if they have a location with a railway on it, which they don't. Unfortunately, we have a bridge here. If they got to the central station, they could play that card. So that's actually a useless card. For them, and they're not likely to get there, and if they do, they've finished, they've won, so they're going to discard that straight away, else it'll just clog up their hand. And the Germans, oh, they pulled an airstrike, that's very nice, and a supply cash card, so they also get fortune card, supply cash, forage for 2 more cards out of the deck, so they do that straight away too. Okay, and they've got a tactics card, which is great. That's going to give us some cover as we go in. So they've also got commandos as a company they can attach. Now that's very nice, which gives they can perform a shock attack, and they give some defense against barraging. Okay. So the first thing we do then is check for the orders. Germans get 2 orders. You normally get 2, sometimes 1, sometimes 3, occasionally 4 at a go, unless you have a special card. So they've got 2. We want to move forward. That would leave that open. Yeah, that's silly me. So that's going to be open, so they'll both be open anyway, unless I leave the artillery there. No, bring the artillery into contact. So activate first order. I'm activating the Panzer Battalion to advance. Bring the engineers and the artillery with them. And I go try for a flank attempt, and they get that. Excellent, so they're on the flank. Okay, and now we go to combat. So we're actually up against the tank brigade. Ouch, this could be tricky, so I might want to stop here and not fight, because we're on even Stevens according to the cover, so we're just going to card draw who goes first. I've got some reinforcements here, so I'm going to stop there, and because I don't have a course, I can't plan cards, so I have no chance of knowing. There's less chance of getting effective airstrikes. Very nicely how it's modelled into the game. I'm going to play that as my second, so airstrike on this tank brigade, so hopefully that means then we will take that terrain straight away. I should have played that airstrike for 4. No, I have the unengaged forces. Okay, that will be on the cannons here. They're in cover 3, and they have 3, so yes! 9. 9 plus 7 is 16. And they're on 6, so that's 3 results cards. 3 hits, the first one says 3 hits, that is destroyed immediately, ouch. And that happens, I think the Soviet deck is slightly tuned that it gives more hits on the whole than the Germans. I seem to be finding that it seems to be another reason why Soviets are dying so quickly. Okay. So I'll put that there. No, put it in here for eliminated. Okay, so that's the German turn over. Didn't do that too well, but still. Okay, the Soviets only get 1 order. So that's good news for the Germans. Do they have any troops? They could bring on some more artillery. I think they're going to do that with their 1 order. Okay, so we go back to the Germans, and they get 3 orders. That's what you want when you're going to attack. So I'm going to play this a bit more sensibly. I'm going to play a tactics card, smoke and cover. So what that means is that it's going to add to our chance of getting the first hit, and we might be able to bring in a artillery barrage on this card, and then this Panzer battalion will attack with it. So that's the first order. Oh, I'll just take up the Soviet cards. Up to 4. They've got an interceptors card there. Shame they didn't have that earlier. Okay, so activating this card. I'm not going for the infiltrate, so I'll go for the observer first on a 4. No, I rolled a 7.
You're not doing that.
That was my son. I asked him to knock next time. Okay, so where was I? I forgot. So we're playing the tactics card, and we've gone for observer. We missed it. So now we go straight to combat unless I stop there. But because we got smoke and cover, I think we're going to continue. So we're on 4 cover and he's on 2. So we both flip. He gets a 5, so he's on 7. I get a 3, so we're at 7. Ooh, so that's interesting. That's simultaneous. So let's see what we each get. I get a 3 and he gets a 1. So he does 5 against me, and my defense value is 7 plus 2 for the train, so that's nothing. And I got 3, and I'm on 5, so that's 8. He's on 7 plus 2 for his terrain, so that's no effect. Okay, that's interesting. So that's first. So the second action, I'm going to bring in the artillery. That should winkle him out. So I get target cover 3 or less, yes. So the first draw is a 6. On to 5 is 11. He's on 7, 8, 9, so that's going to be 1 result. Hold on chance 1 or 7. So I check for that. A 4, so no, that wasn't likely. So he's withdrawn, which is actually okay for the Soviets rather than eliminating one of those fellows. Because in fact that was a divisional formation, so it wasn't one of the originals. So we have taken this terrain successfully, although I can actually continue because I got barrage here, and this, no, because we're at this location, and I don't think you can attack. You can't move from enemy control to enemy controlled. Yeah, a bit of rules interpretation here. So I'm assuming that I automatically gain control as soon as I'm the only fellow in the location, but don't know if that means I can continue with the card text that was in operation when that happened, so I'm assuming I can, which means I have another barrage available, so I can do that barrage over to here, or even back to here on the artillery. If I do it here, then my next turn we can advance and we will have claimed the objective. So I'm going to do that, barraging here, it's definitely possible. I get a 1, so that's 5 plus 1 is a 6, and he's got defense of 6. 3 plus 3 for the terrain, so it is doable, and he gets 1 hit, hold on chance 2 or 6, and he rolls a 4, so that mortar is withdrawn, and finish that activation. So I've got 1 more order, but in fact there's an order's cost to take this terrain, so I can move to it. I won't be able to take it, but we will be in position. So I'll activate one of the other formations and go into so if I activate the Panzer Battalion on a 4, he can go on the flank. I do get a 4, so he's in on the flank. Those two are in the attack position. So we are essentially behind the enemy lines, and it goes over to their turn. Now we left ourselves wide open, so for example this Guards Tank Battalion could march 1 to here and then advance to here, take that and threaten our base. Let's see, they'll probably do something like that to get 2 orders. So we'll just bring up the German hand size. So look at what I've got played. So I think what I'm going to do, I could bring in one of these troops. None of them are very so strong. What we've got? Okay. I'm going to do that. I mean, I could go for a reinforcement, but it might just be a weak artillery unit. I'm not sure. I don't think I can risk that, so I'll spend 1 order to bring on the headquarters here. No, actually I'll spend, let me see, I'll spend 1 order to bring on a reinforcement, see what that one is. It happens to be troops. Okay, so that's as good as the headquarters on defence. Total of 8 defensive value. And then I could spend the other for another, but I think I want to threaten this. So I'll spend the other, because I could get another unit there, but the chances are with all those 3 they could still take it out. But I want them to think about this. Okay, so if they don't manage that, hang on, no, because that's be a dead cert with just 1. So the pressure is on, there's not time to operate them, so yes, I'm going for another reinforcement, which is a tank brigade. That's great, that's even stronger. Okay, so that's the end of the Soviet turn. Germans now get 2 orders. What can they bring on? Really, they just want to press the attack. Yeah, I don't have anything that really I can sort of finesse this with. So we're just going to go bring in the heavy artillery first, see where we get with that. not much cover here, so we're going to get actually 3 strikes. So that's a 9 versus 9. So that's one result, 1 hit, hold on chance 2 or 6. That's a 4, so that was withdrawn. Next strike, 3 plus 5, that's 8, and they're on 8, so that's another 1 result. Hold on chance 3 or 5. Let's see, do I draw a 3 or a 5? I drew a 4, so that's it, it's all over. There's nothing there, and we spend our last order to claim the territory. So the Germans didn't, they destroyed 1 artillery regiment, and they took the objective for 41 victory points and 9 victory points there, so that gives them a total of 50 victory points for that. And so they are on 1769 so far for Winter Storm. Okay, that is that mission. You can see how quickly they can be over. So the Soviets, oh no, it's over, isn't it? Because the Soviets lost a unit and they couldn't afford to lose a single unit. Yeah, it was going to be the last mission, really. Even if the campaign wasn't over because of that, the Soviets would have to win at least 2 operations in succession after the Germans just having won the last 2. It's not very likely. So that is it. That is the end of the campaign. Germans win with a total of 75 victory points against the Soviets, 10 victory points. And yeah, I think that was slightly unbalanced, although I don't know, I'm not going to say for sure, because I understand that it has been quite well play tested, this system. It could be that I needed a different style of play, like I said, concentrating more on units rather than defending or gaining objectives as a Soviet player, so taking out the higher powered formations that the Germans were fielding with artillery strikes and air strikes, and that way depleting their combat ability, so probably losing the first 1 or 2 operations and hopefully winning the last 2. So I don't know, I don't feel definitively that it was unbalanced. I feel there is something in there in my play style that could have given the Soviets a better game. They did win the first operation, which was great. And yeah, so that's it. That's the end of this video series. What I'm in the mood to do now is to choose 2 different decks. Essentially, I think of the same troop quality. So 2 units and play them through the same campaign in that fashion. But that's going to have to wait for a while, because I've played quite a lot of this and I fancy a change. So I'm moving on to the game of Killer Angels instead. That will be the next video, which series that I'm shooting. Final thought is, I think what I will do is shoot one kind of like a review of my experience of the Battlelines system. So I've done some introductory videos and I've done these playthrough videos. But I think for other people that you know, maybe wonder what the that should probably be enough for people to think. But I think I should give some sort of feedback on my experience having played it again after not having played it for a year or so, because I'm now, after going through the campaign, a bit less enthusiastic about it than I was when I started. But that doesn't really detract from the fact that I'm still going to be playing this game a lot, because it's always been like that with the game. This is the relationship I have with it, is that I want to play it a lot because I find it a wonderful design in sense of the history that you get, the evocation, and then the procedures that it performs. They sort of all tie in nicely, and they seem to speak to what they're pretending to do very well. But then with it being a card game, you do get chance is quite a big factor in it. Now, I was hoping that was going to be mitigated a lot in using the campaign, and I think it is, but I guess I need to change my play style to reflect that better. So in the sense of thinking more in terms of campaigns instead of each immediate, what could I achieve in this mission that would serve in the long term of the campaign, rather than just trying to defend or obtain my objective in that mission. And I didn't really get into that, I suppose, because of my habit of playing just solo single operations, 2 or 3 missions at a time before. So yeah, I think I'll do that, and then I'll give this a rest for a while and come back to it another time, and maybe do an update on another campaign played through. So I hope you've enjoyed that, if you've followed through, and that it's given you good some insight into the flavour of this game. And I would I would recommend anyone picking it up if they have any interest in card war games, because it's definitely an interesting and I think effective design.